Welcome to the debate. What if I told you that the platform delivering this audio to you right now,
Oh, here we go.
no, seriously, it knows more about your current mental state based on the milliseconds you took to press play than you actually do.
I mean, it's a slightly terrifying thought, but statistically accurate.
Right, exactly. So today, we are diving into the invisible architecture of our digital lives. We're looking at the profound moral limits of automated behavioral profiles.
Yeah, these artificial intelligence systems that, well, they don't merely react to our clicks anymore. They continuously build these dynamic, shifting maps of our habits, our preferences, and even our probabilities.
Exactly. And I look at the staggering complexity of the modern digital landscape, and I see a reality where behavioral mapping is just a mathematically rigorous, absolutely necessary utility.
Necessary.
Yes, necessary. It's an algorithmic sorting mechanism that helps us navigate this, ocean of white noise. And its risks are heavily outweighed by its ability to drastically reduce friction in our daily lives.
See, I come at it from a completely different way. I look at that exact same architecture and see a mechanism that fundamentally reduces human complexity to, well, algorithmic predictions.
But it's predicting based on your own actions.
Right, but the machine isn't just watching you, it is predicting your next move and actively shaping your digital environment so that you make that exact move. It subtly confines our choices, you know?
I think confines is a really strong word there.
I use it intentionally. It prioritizes systems mathematically optimized for institutional profit and engagement entirely over human agency and free will.
Well, let's jump right into that idea of confinement, because I think we have to ground this in the reality of scale. Think about the sheer velocity of data creation today.
It's massive, sure.
Right, we generate quintillions of bytes of data every single day. Navigating that without algorithmic sorting is mathematically impossible. I mean, without behavioral mapping, the internet is completely unusable.
Okay, but
Just let me establish a scale here. When we talk about these profiles, we aren't talking about a static file sitting in a server with your name and address on it. We're talking about dynamic parameter updates.
which is exactly what makes them so invasive.
But it's subtle. The AI uses incredibly subtle proxy metrics. It measures the velocity of your scroll, the XY coordinates of your mouse pointer, even the micro pauses when you hover over an image.
Right.
Every single one of those actions updates the weights in a neural network, recalculating a confidence score about what you need in that exact moment. That isn't confinement. That is the pinnacle of hyper-personalized service.
You call it service, but listen, let's look at the actual mechanism governing those neural networks. We are talking about reinforcement learning here.
Sure, standard machine learning.
Yes, but the system's objective function is not your intellectual fulfillment. It is session duration. It is literally optimizing for time on device.
Which means it's giving you what you want.
No, it means every time you click, the algorithm updates its neural network to prioritize similar content, effectively penalizing anything that challenges you. Why? Because challenge introduces cognitive friction.
And people generally don't like friction.
But friction is where growth happens. Friction decreases session time, and decreased session time is a failure condition for the AI. You are framing this as if the AI is like a hyper-attentive librarian, perfectly anticipating the exact book you need.
It is basically doing that.
But that fundamentally misrepresents the power dynamic. The librarian in this scenario is boarding up the rest of the library so you never even see the other books.
I wouldn't call the librarian analogy flawed, but if you want something more mechanical, let's look at GPS routing. Think about how Waze or Google Maps works.
Okay.
It reroutes you around traffic by constantly polling the speed of thousands of other cars in real time. These behavioral maps do the exact same thing with your attention.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because
Well, let me finish the analogy. They reroute you around digital friction by polling the click rates and bounce rates of millions of people who share your specific psychological and behavioral cluster.
right, cluster being the key word.
Yeah, and if the system knows that users with your exact sequence of behaviors get stuck, confused, or frustrated by a certain type of interface or a specific complexity of content, it routes you around it.
But a GPS route,
It delivers exactly what you are mathematically most likely to find useful. It saves your cognitive load for things that actually matter in your physical life.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. A GPS route has a fixed destination that I explicitly chose. I type in the address.
True.
With automated behavioral mapping, the AI is choosing the destination based on what keeps my eyes on the screen the longest. It is not routing me around traffic. It is routing me into a psychological cul-de-sac with a massive billboard and keeping me driving in circles.
Driving in circles is a bit dramatic, don't you think?
Not at all. When the map determines which ads, which recommendations, and which ideas are most visible, it ceases to be a tool for orientation. It becomes predictive architecture.
But it's predicting based on your historical preferences.
Yes, and by doing so, it turns off the lights in the sections of the digital world that don't immediately spike your dopamine. It narrows your digital life, because serendipity, true, challenging serendipity, is statistically unpredictable.
Well, sure.
And unpredictability is the enemy of an optimized model.
But unpredictability in a system of this scale is often just another word for irrelevant noise. I mean, let's talk about how precise this actually is, because the nuance in these dynamic models is staggering.
They are technically impressive, I'll give you that.
Exactly, and I think it actively disproves the idea that we are just driving in circles. The AI looks at the cadence of your typing. It looks at whether you phrase a search as an open-ended question or a direct, urgent command.
Right.
That variance alters the algorithm's confidence score regarding your level of uncertainty. If the predictions are 99% accurate, if the machine knows you're going to search for a specific solution on a Tuesday night before you even consciously realize you need it,
Which happens.
all the time. So arguing that it's boarding up aisles completely ignores the fact that it's successfully handing you the exact tool you are going to look for anyway.
I disagree.
That level of predictive accuracy practically is understanding. If a system can anticipate your needs with near perfect reliability, arguing that it doesn't know you is just human ego protecting itself.
Oh, wow. That is a highly dangerous conflation right there. Predicting a behavior is not the same as understanding a human being.
How is it functionally different?
The system understands your behavioral patterns, yes. It maps your vulnerabilities, your compulsions, and your habits. It knows the exact statistical probability of you clicking a politically enraging headline after a long workday.
Because you have a pattern of doing it.
Exactly. But behavior is not the whole person. It completely misses your underlying values, your context, and your capacity for growth. We have to look at how these feedback loops actually operate on human psychology.
I mean, they operate by giving you what you want.
No, they operate by creating a false sense of familiarity. When a platform consistently predicts your preferences with that 99% accuracy you mentioned, it creates a powerful illusion. It fosters this deep psychological dependence where users begin to trust the algorithm's version of themselves more than their own introspection.
But if the algorithm's version of you is empirically correct based on millions of data points, and your introspection is clouded by, say, exhaustion or bias, why shouldn't you trust the algorithm?
Wait, really? You're saying trust the machine over your own mind?
If it correctly identifies from your erratic scroll velocity that you are exhausted and need low cognitive load entertainment, rather than a complex documentary, it is serving reality. It is meeting you exactly where you are.
Because it calcifies a transient, temporary state into a permanent identity. Let's trace the mechanics of that.
Go ahead.
Say you are doom scrolling at 2 in the morning because you are stressed about your job. The system logs that high engagement, low friction behavior, right?
Right, it updates the weights.
Yes, it adjusts the neural network weights, associating your profile with high arousal, low complexity content. The next day at 2 in the afternoon, when you are alert, rested, and entirely capable of deep, challenging work, you open the platform.
And it serves you content.
What does the system serve you? It serves you the 2 a.m. stress content. Why? Because that is what previously maximized your engagement. And because humans are highly susceptible to their environment, you click it.
Well, you have the choice not to click it.
But you fall back into the pattern. This is algorithmic determinism.
Algorithmic determinism. That assumes the algorithm is a one-way street dictating your actions.
It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. By predicting your future based on your weakest, most vulnerable moments, the AI actually forces that specific future to happen.
I just don't see it that way.
It defines you before you have the space to define yourself. It tells you who you are based on a momentary lapse in attention, and it structurally optimizes your environment to ensure you remain that person.
Okay, I push back heavily on that because algorithmic determinism assumes the user has absolutely zero agency, which I completely reject. You are entirely dismissing the fact that these models adopt just as quickly to positive shifts.
Do they, though?
Yes. If you start clicking on challenging educational content at 2 in the afternoon, the system updates its confidence scores in real time. It doesn't take days, it takes milliseconds.
But the friction to start that positive shift is massive because the environment is rigged against it.
But the system learns that you have dual modes, right? An AM mode and a PM mode. The mapping is mathematically rigorous enough to accommodate immense complexity. It doesn't permanently trap you in a doom scroll unless you consistently, actively choose to stay there.
I think that's a very optimistic view of human willpower.
Not just a mirror when we move out of consumer entertainment and into high-stakes institutional environments.
Okay, let's shift gears to that.
The stakes are profoundly different when we elevate this beyond what video you watch next or what shoes you buy. Let's look at how these automated behavioral profiles are becoming the foundational architecture for financial services, for hiring software, and for educational platforms.
Which I think is a positive development.
Think about a university using AI to map student engagement. The map isn't just suggesting a video anymore. It is distributing opportunity.
And I would argue they absolutely should be doing that. Let's look deeply at the mechanism of an educational AI. A learning management system tracks how long the student hovers over a complex equation.
Right.
It tracks how quickly they click away from a reading assignment or the latency in their keystrokes during a multiple choice quiz. Those are incredibly valuable proxy metrics for comprehension and focus.
Are they?
Yes, a human teacher with 35 students in a room cannot possibly notice the micro hesitations of every single student. They can't know exactly which sentence caused the student to lose focus. But the AI can.
But the AI doesn't know why.
It knows enough to help. AI behavioral mapping democratizes the kind of hyper-personalized, one-on-one attention that was historically reserved for the ultra-wealthy with private tutors.
You are assuming the AI correctly interprets the meaning behind those proxy metrics. Let's look at what happens next in that exact scenario.
Okay.
The algorithm processes that keystroke latency and builds a profile of that student's academic potential. But how does the machine interpret a pause?
Usually as disengagement.
Exactly. Is the student hesitating because they are struggling and disengaged, or are they hesitating because they are lost in deep, profound thought, connecting the material to a larger concept?
Well, at scale, the former is mathematically much more likely.
But for that specific student, it matters. The machine, optimizing for historical patterns of efficiency, categorizes the pause as a drop in engagement. It flags the student. It might automatically route them toward remedial, overly simplistic modules,
To help them catch up.
or subtly hide advanced placement opportunities from their dashboard because they don't fit the historical behavioral cluster of successful fast-clicking candidates.
But any system of evaluation has flaws. The question is whether it's better than the alternative.
The alternative doesn't automatically scale a misinterpretation to ruin a student's entire trajectory. In this system, the map literally becomes the territory.
That's an exaggeration.
It's not. The student effectively becomes a low-tier learner in the eyes of the institution because the algorithm structurally limits their access to higher-tier material. Opportunity is dictated by a machine mathematically optimizing for historical averages.
But let's look honestly at the alternative you're defending here.
Human evaluation.
Right. Before algorithmic mapping, human evaluators, teachers, loan officers, hiring managers, made those exact same determinations using massive unexamined subconscious biases.
I'm not saying humans are perfect.
A teacher might decide a student isn't paying attention because of how they sit, or the clothes they wear, or 100 other arbitrary human prejudices. A loan officer might deny a line of credit based on completely irrational geographic or demographic biases.
Sure, human bias is real.
An algorithmic map, however, is built on millions of behavioral data points. And most importantly, it can be audited.
Audited?
Yes. If we see a disparate impact in who gets approved for a loan or who gets into an advanced class, we can open the model, we can examine the parameters, identify the specific proxy metric that is heavily weighted toward a biased outcome, and mathematically neutralize it.
In theory, yes.
The predictive power of these maps is actually the greatest tool we have for standardizing fairness, provided we enforce designer accountability.
Listen, I understand the appeal of that argument. I truly do. The idea of a perfectly rational, perfectly auditable machine is a wonderful thought experiment.
It's not a thought experiment, it's applied data science.
But the idea that we can easily audit our way to pure objectivity completely misinterprets how complex neural networks function today. We aren't talking about a simple decision tree where you can point to line 42 in the code and say, aha, there's the bias, let's delete it.
No, obviously it's more complex than that.
We are talking about deep learning models with billions of parameters. The bias is distributed across the entire neural net. The proxy metrics themselves carry the historical bias.
How so? If the metric is just click speed, how is that inherently biased?
Because behavioral traces are proxies for socioeconomic realities. If a financial institution's AI flags you as a credit risk, it isn't just looking at your credit score.
What else is it looking at?
It's looking at the fact that you fill out financial applications at 1 in the morning, which correlates with shift work. It's looking at the syntax of your emails. It's looking at your geolocation clusters and the fact that your device battery is consistently below 20%, which is a known correlate for lower socioeconomic stability.
Oh, interesting point.
Right, the model ingests these micro behaviors, correlates them with historical default rates, and assigns a risk score. The system doesn't know why a low battery correlates with loan default. It just knows the mathematical correlation.
But if that correlation is highly predictive across a data set of 10 million loans, it is an accurate measure of risk.
Even if it's unfair?
Fairness is a human construct. Math is math. If the system accurately predicts risk, it protects the institution, it protects the broader economy from subprime collapses, and frankly, it actually protects the individual from taking on debt they mathematically cannot repay. It is an objective reflection of reality.
It enforces a reality on the individual that they cannot escape.
How?
If you are flagged as a risk by the behavioral map, your access to capital is restricted. Because your access to capital is restricted, your actual financial stress increases in the physical world.
Well, yes, being broke is stressful.
You miss a car payment because you couldn't get the loan. Your credit drops further. The algorithmic prediction literally triggers the exact failure it predicted. It is a closed loop.
I see what you're saying.
The algorithm didn't just predict the default, it engineered the conditions for it by denying the user the very resources they needed to prove the algorithm wrong.
Look, the feedback loop you are describing is a legitimate serious risk. I will grant you that. But it is a risk of application and institutional policy, not an inherent evil of the mapping technology itself.
I think the line between the two is very blurry.
But this is exactly where governance, regulation, and transparency come into play. The sheer volume of digital interaction means we absolutely require algorithms to sort the universe for us. We cannot manually triage the billions of decisions made in education, finance, or healthcare every single day.
So we just hand it over to the machine?
We govern the machine. The challenge is not to demonize the map. The challenge is to tightly govern the mapper. This means requiring platforms to provide transparency not just into what data is collected, but how the confidence scores are calculated.
Transparency is a comforting word, but it rarely solves the structural problem.
If users and regulators can see the weights, they can contest them.
Even if a platform shows me the exact dashboard of my behavioral profile, even if it explicitly shows me that my fast scroll speed, my geographic location, and my fragmented attention span give me a 92% probability of clicking an outrage-inducing political headline, the system is still fundamentally designed to serve me that headline.
But you'd have the awareness to ignore it.
The underlying mechanism of capturing attention remains entirely intact. Just knowing I am in a cage doesn't magically dissolve the bars. The optimization for engagement is what narrows human potential, regardless of whether I am fully aware of the math behind it.
I just push back heavily on the premise that optimization inherently narrows potential. An AI map can absolutely be programmed to optimize for long-term user well-being, for educational growth, or for serendipity.
If they wanted to, sure.
If we structure the market incentives correctly, yes. A well-designed dynamic model could recognize that you have been entirely insulated within a specific political or cultural cluster for 3 months and intentionally serve you a highly rated, challenging piece of content from outside that boundary.
But they don't do that.
Itself is completely agnostic. It just estimates probability. How we apply that estimation, whether we use it to feed outrage or to introduce productive serendipity, is purely a matter of ethical engineering. We can mandate systems that help users navigate without silently restricting them.
Relying on corporate engineering to voluntarily regulate its most profitable mechanism is incredibly optimistic, bordering on naive.
Ouch.
I mean, the financial incentives to keep you engaged, angry, or comforted are simply too massive. The real defense against this cannot happen at the regulatory or engineering level alone. It has to happen at the individual level.
Meaning what, exactly?
We need to actively cultivate an awareness of our own algorithmic determinism. Once you understand that every single hesitation and keystroke is constantly updating the parameters of your digital environment, you can start to intentionally introduce noise into the system.
Interesting noise, huh? I actually really like that concept. Walk through the mechanics of how a user actually does that in their daily digital life. How do you inject noise into a mathematically rigorous profile?
It means intentionally breaking your own behavioral patterns to lower the algorithm's confidence scores about you.
Okay.
If the system thinks it knows you with 99% accuracy, your goal is to drop that to 60%. You deliberately click on articles you vehemently disagree with and scroll slowly through them.
To confuse the model.
Exactly. You leave your device in another room to break your precise geolocation clustering. You intentionally pause on content entirely outside your typical preferences. You have to feed the neural network contradictory data points.
That's so interesting.
By doing this, you force the map to remain blurry. When the AI cannot confidently predict your next move, it is forced to serve you a wider, more diverse distribution of content. You effectively hack your own behavioral profile to preserve a space for human unpredictability.
It's a fascinating, almost subversive approach to digital living. You are effectively saying that to protect our own agency, we have to become as dynamic and unpredictable as the systems mapping us.
Pretty much, yeah.
We have to treat our own data trails as a canvas we are constantly painting over.
Exactly. We cannot stop the mapping. The architecture is far too embedded in modern society. But we can refuse to be easily categorized. We must constantly remind ourselves that we are fundamentally more complex, more contradictory, and more capable of growth than the highest probability path the algorithm has laid out for us.
And I think that is where the true power lies for the user. Whether you see these automated behavioral maps as an unparalleled, necessary utility that seamlessly routes you through an impossibly complex digital world,
or whether you view them as predictive architecture that subtly confines your future.
Exactly. The reality remains exactly the same. The parameters are being updated every single second. The map is a living thing.
It is being drawn with every hesitation, every keystroke, and every silent pause. The map is always being constructed, and it is reshaping the terrain beneath your feet as it goes.
We will leave you to decide how much of your own map you want to intentionally disrupt and how much you want to rely on it to navigate the noise. Keep questioning the invisible architecture around you, and remember that you always have the power to change the destination.
Until next time, keep introducing noise.